Welcome to On the Edge. I'm your host, David Abel, where we talk to industry leaders, industry experts, and talk about really cool technology that's changing the world and changing the way operations does their job. Welcome to the show. I'm lucky enough to have Brian Waldon with us from Diamanti, and I'd like to have him do a little quick introduction of himself.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and talk to your audience here. My name is Brian. I've been in the infrastructure space for maybe the last decade or so. I'm really excited to share what we're doing here at Diamanti with you today.
All right, wonderful. I'm David Abel here from Edge, and I'm the actual managing partner of a local integrator here in the southeast in Georgia. So one of the key questions we're going to talk about today is, something that's I'm seeing going on in the industry is how can Diamanti as an actual company really make a change to the IT operations? How can they really change the financial footprint? And as an example, we see customers actually moving to running virtual machines on top of containers and removing the hypervisor altogether from an actual abstraction layer and a cost. What do you think, Brian?
It's something that we see happening as well. The real core benefits of our platform really come down to overall TCO reduction. And we are a tech startup after all, so it has no surprise that that's due to the technology under the covers. When our customers deploy the Diamanti Ultima data plane, really what it's doing is it's unifying management of I/O at a bare metal level such that you can drive the highest throughput, the lowest latency from your infrastructure. Now with our additional spectrum management plane layer, that's where Kubernetes is coming in and really driving the operational benefits, the process benefits. Back to your point about running virtual machines inside of containers, there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're aware of what kind of overhead you're incurring on yourselves. So a lot of times it's CPU virtualization, but also folks don't necessarily catch on to the I/O virtualization that's happening behind the scenes. So really the beauty of the Diamanti platform is you can continue to run VMs inside of containers directly in our platform while maintaining the benefits from that data plane under the covers.
That's fantastic. That's something that to me is where the industry is going, kicking and screaming. And because you see it in big data, you see it in data analytics and all the kind of the future very large compute needs. We're seeing everybody having to, the hypervisor is an extra cost that they have to pull out because they have to pull off these big things at a certain price point. So you have to make sacrifices. But with those sacrifices and those thought processes, it makes people do innovative things.
Right.
And I love that because that drives the innovation in the industry. Now, from your perspective, why would people not want to manage Kubernetes on their own? Why would, because Diamanti really gives that platform, on-prem or in the cloud, but they don't have to deal with the nuances underneath. Why is that valuable for organizations?
Yeah, well, whenever you run any infrastructure platform, it's complicated. There are a lot of moving pieces. You've got to keep up with the developments happening, whether it's an upstream open source community or it's an ISV that's delivering that platform for you. We got plugged into the Kubernetes community pre 1.0. We saw a lot of gaps in the software. We got our hands dirty and got in there and actually, number one, we introduced the right abstractions upstream such that storage vendors could sit out of the tree. It's pretty low level detail, but it's really important for individual experts to be able to come and collaborate within this new platform. Secondly, we actually extended the Kubernetes scheduler so we could most optimally place workloads within the Kubernetes platform that we were delivering. And it's just a history lesson, but the point is, we've got our hands dirty here, and we've maintained that kind of expertise in-house so that our customers don't have to go through the same pain that we've gone through, wrapping our heads around this platform over the last 4 years. Now, with that said, there are a lot of decisions that come into configuration of the platform. Whether you know what's actually going on behind the scenes or not, you've got to understand how to deploy this thing in the most secure way possible. Again, that's the burden that we take onto ourselves so that something as simple as connecting to our customers' LDAP-based identity provider. You could probably figure that out. But you've got to support that over release after release after release. Now, how do you run a secure container runtime and provide policy-based controls to your end users? Now, that's where it gets a little bit more complicated. And now we've got to deal with this mess of the Docker run C runtime versus the Cryo runtime and container runtime managers.
Yeah.
And there are just a lot of details in there that it's not your day job to learn how all of that works. It's your day job to go do your day job.
And it's every 3 months. The thing I'm noticing that I'd like you to talk about a little bit is the rate of change for Kubernetes and what's going on in that industry is rapidly different than when virtualization came out.
Yeah.
I mean, the change level and the speed of change is insane.
Oh, yeah.
The number of products and capabilities and different values. And we have 17 products that do the same thing. And there's a battle of who does what. I mean, I've never seen it. There's like this periodic chart on the internet that says, here are the 5 billion apps that do all this stuff. There's little icons all over the place. It's really one of those insane diagrams, but it really proves the point that this industry is going through unbelievable change. And there's not enough people who understand all those different capabilities or would ever know all the different options. It's like the biggest Chinese menu you've ever seen in your entire career. So really excited that you guys do that. Now, from what you see today, what are some of the challenges that are coming in the future that Diamanti is getting prepared for?
Yeah, well, we focus quite a bit on this data plane layer, and just to explain what that means a little bit more, to your point a moment ago, that there are 15 million different applications, layers, services, whatever, that you need to choose from to actually go put your platform together, to actually go deploy it. So that means at a high level, you're going to figure out which Kubernetes distro you're going to roll with, which multi-cluster manager you're going to roll with, which storage solution you're going to choose. And then maybe that's actually bisected based on your cloud provider versus your on-prem capabilities. Now, what we've done with our data plane is we've actually unified all of that back together into one platform. So when you go deploy into AWS, you don't have to go choose a new block storage provider. And it's probably going to be EBS, maybe it'll be another ISV, but you don't need to worry about the differences that come from the AWS-based block devices in Kubernetes and how they might act differently than your on-prem solution. So we're really trying to come at this from a holistic angle. Kubernetes is hard, it's getting easier, but it's still not turnkey if you're just starting from scratch necessarily. And then, the other angle here, independent of Kubernetes, is we don't see folks really solving data management along with application management and their necessary availability requirements. Like, it doesn't matter if your storage layer is available if your actual workload isn't running, and vice versa.
Yeah.
So with Kubernetes, what we're able to do is not just like on day one, get your application deployed into the most optimal location in your data center or most optimal region in GCP, AWS, whatever. But on day two, when you actually have an outage, our software is there to actually make sure that your application and your data stay available.
And the good news is that I see from Diamanti, one thing I've actually noticed in some from customer interactions, y'all have a DR and an active-active method and design already baked. If you go to a traditional kind of just go with and say an OpenShift or something, I haven't seen it. It's probably there, but I haven't seen it where it's kind of ready for that out of the box. You guys have thought through that, the idea of having, zones and having different, just like you would in the public cloud. You guys can do that on-prem. So I thought that was really valuable for our customers to hear and so they understand. But it is an opinionated PaaS is what it's called in the industry. So you guys y'all define what it looks like and where it is. So if somebody wants to inject, some special service that came out literally Thursday and it's available on GitHub and they want to install it, talk me through how does Diamanti work with customers when they want to shove in all these new crazy features?
Yeah,
how does that work?
That's a great question. So we've designed this to be Kubernetes first. And I know I use the word Kubernetes all the time, but really what it means is we're focusing on the abstractions that everybody else is building around. So we've built in a modular way such that you can not deploy a module if you don't want it, or you can plug in next to our modules at the Kubernetes layer if that's what you'd like to do. Specifically the layers behind the scenes on the data plane side are called CSI and CNI, the Kubernetes storage and network interfaces. Now that means you can go provision a 10 gig a 10 gig backed layer 2 network interface from the ultimate data plane, or you can go provision an Open vSwitch backed overlay port from some other solution and consume those directly from the same application running in Kubernetes, whether that Kubernetes cluster is even managed by Spectra or not. So we've really tried to focus on providing the best solutions that we possibly can, but we know there are many other reasons why a business might make a decision that doesn't align with full adoption of our platform.
All right, and like things like Istio and from a service mesh perspective, and all that's really a big deal, and kind of brings all the value of microsegmentation in the virtual world into the actual container world. And it's kind of for the first time, it's not on the operations people to figure it out. The app team has to be engaged. So I like that from being an operations guy. So that's the real value there. What about, your perspective? What industry trends do you see coming that might impact these visions? Is there anything out there that you see that's impacting the vision?
That's a good question.
New needs, requirements?
Yeah, well, I think that, again, back to your point about Istio, that's not something that anybody had even thought was possible in the general sense 5 years ago. And now everyone's sitting there saying, where the heck is my service mesh? Why isn't this running in my environment yet? So I think the trend that I'm getting at here is just this willingness to adopt new technologies built on these new abstractions that we're getting in place in what we think of as a legacy architecture or infrastructure. So I think that's a really good wave of innovation and just maturation of the broader sense of IT these days.
All right. Well, hey, I really appreciate your time. We're kind of out of time, and appreciate the activity and the partnership, and want to say thank you.
Yeah, thank you, David. I appreciate it.
All right, bye, everybody. Appreciate your time, and look for the next On the Edge.